What's happening, everybody? It's Sean, joined again by my daughter, Mackenzie. And today on Reactions to the Classics, we have another selection of Ron Sexsmith. We had one last month, and Trey reacted to that one. So this time, I get it, and I brought in Mackenzie for it. This is brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter and patron of the channel, B-Mac. Thank you, B-Mac. He brought us a Ron Sexsmith probably a year ago, the debut that Trey and I reviewed. That's up on the channel. Check it out, of course, after this. And Mackenzie, you actually told me you know a Ron Sexsmith song.
I do. I can't remember what it was though, but I remember I listened to it like a year ago, and I've skimmed through his self-titled album, and that was where that song was.
Okay, the one that Trey and I reviewed.
That song.
Yeah, that's a really good album. I super enjoyed it. I really love singer-songwriters. I actually watched a couple interviews that B-Mac sent me that Ron did in preparation for this, and just really liked him. So I think he's a guy I could really dive into. Let's learn a little bit about Ron before we start this review. He's a Canadian singer-songwriter from St. Catharines, Ontario. He's the Songwriter of the Year at the 2005 Juno Awards. He began releasing recordings of his own material way back in '85 at the age of 21 and has since recorded 15 albums.
And he started a band at age 14, and he started playing at a bar at 17, and that is where he gained a reputation as the one-man jukebox for his aptitude in playing requests.
Wow, and I'll jump in on that for a second. He has he has two YouTube channels, but one of them, he's just sitting in his house playing covers of all kinds of songs, just whatever you want, so you might want to go check that out. His songs have been performed and recorded by a number of well-known musicians, including Elvis Costello, Feist, Rod Stewart, and Emmylou Harris, just to name a few. Here's what B-Mac had to say about this. Again, showing his diversity, great songwriting, and melody prowess. Again, a selection of songs from his catalog rather than the hits, as it were. And the man himself, Elton John, at a concert in Canada, began by telling the sold-out crowd that he is a Canadian by marriage, then brought in some other connections.
He said, "I have two sons that are Canadian, and I have a Canadian family, which is so great, and I love them so much. They're wonderful people. David, my wonderful husband, we've been together 25 years. Isn't that wonderful? So I'm very grateful to Canada for that. I'm also grateful to Canada for all the wonderful music and all the great artists it has produced over the years. I don't have to say them because they're all legends. One of them, who I love so much, is here tonight. His name is Ron Sexsmith, and he's been one of my favorites for a long time."
Well, B-Mac said he was actually at this concert. He didn't hear him say that, but yeah, I mean, Elton John shouting this man out when almost no one knows who he is. So, I mean, with all that out of the way, I love to dig into research of songs. It is so difficult to find anything on Ron. Mackenzie, you recently did Paul Simon's songbook with me. We had all kinds of research there. This is going to be the polar opposite for you. However, Ron is such a gifted songwriter. You can actually read the lyrics to a song and know what they're about, and you know that sounds like a common sense thing, but it's actually not the case when you're going through music. Trust me, I go through lyrics every single day.
So we're gonna start off with the song "Cheap Hotel" off of the album Blue Boy from 2001.
And if it's your first time joining us, just an FYI, the music will not be in the reaction. It'll get blocked on YouTube. You don't want that because you need to hear these songs. You're going to join us for the entire reaction. Click the link below. You can follow along. If you just want to know what we think, hang around here. We will let you know. And as I said before, this is a selection. So B-Mac's a huge fan of Ron Sexsmith. Picked things from all different albums, all different time periods. That's why I'm so looking forward to this one. Let's check it out. Short little tune to start this off, 2 minutes, 18 seconds, but a great example of his just fantastic songwriting. You know, the instrumentation was good. He sounded good, but I mean, the songwriting was the star. Starts out, you know, she made her getaway. When he stepped out, she took the kids and drove far from their house. She told them, "This is our home for now. God bless this cheap hotel," which you'll keep revisiting this. So, you know, I grew up in a house that sounds like this. I grew up with an abusive father, and so she waited for him to leave, and then she took off. So first he'd be sweet to her. They'd talk for hours. Then he'd weigh into her. Then he'd buy her flowers. This whole thing, I'm so nice to you. Then I'm abusive to you. Then I'm nice to you. We didn't really have that in my house. He just wasn't ever nice, but that's another story. Her nerves were shattered. Her dreams as well. GD, this cheap hotel. I'm a Christian. I'm not going to, it's God blank, this cheap hotel. I'm a Christian. I don't say that word. I say about every other cuss word I shouldn't, but I do. But I won't say that one. So it's God bless this cheap hotel. Then it's that seems we'll never see it coming until we hit the ground running. Last night she hit the ground running, but now another day's dawning. So Mackenzie, she sees there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. It doesn't matter that they're not in the home anymore. They're in a cheap hotel because they're away from him. So behind the curtain there may be sun. One thing's for certain, thy will be done on earth as it is done in hell. God bless his cheap hotel. And he repeats that again to finish it. Very powerful 2-minute cycle that he takes you through. Very good storytelling. I enjoyed that one. Do you like that one?
Yeah, just kind of an up and down thing.
Yeah.
First she's happy, then things get bad, then she gets out of there, but she doesn't necessarily like being out of right?
Right, first. Yeah, she doesn't like it at first, but then she realizes,
that it's better than where she was before. So
because I'll tell you what, you can have all the nice things in the world around you, but when you're living with that just all the time fear of like, when is this person going to snap? That's no way to live. I'd rather live on the street, and so she'd rather be in that cheap hotel. So great choice by BMAC to start this thing off. So now we're going to go to Imaginary Friends off the Retriever album in 2004. Imaginary Friends. This one, I really enjoyed the guitar. It was understated, but really put a nice kind of bass to this song. And it's about those things that, I don't know at your age, Mackenzie, you're 14, but I've had a lot of imaginary friends in my life. He's talking about imaginary friends that always let you down. And when all the good times end, you won't be seeing them around. Those fair weather friends that are with you when times are good, when things are bad, you won't see them anywhere, for they run where the action is and they'll cross you off their list. A lot of people who want to be popular go to the people who either have fame or fortune and those sorts of things. So they'll ask you where you've been, but never wait for your reply. They'll meet you when your ship comes in, when you're having that money, popularity, but never meet you eye to eye because they don't really care about you. What do you think of this one?
I like this one. I especially liked, I believe it was on the lines, they'll ask you where you've been and they'll meet you when your ship comes in. I really like the vocal layering on that.
Yes. Yeah, and he progresses a story as he's always going to do. As all the friends have been real and true, wonder who you're talking to. One thing you can depend on, imaginary friends, they can't see you. You can count all your friends on the fingers of one scalded hand. So a lot of brilliance in that, right? Because he's telling you two things. He's telling you don't have a lot of true friends. And the scalded hand is because you've been burned by so many friends. Just fantastic. Just really, really fantastic songwriting.
I also like how it goes from, at the beginning, imaginary friends you don't exist, and then at the end, imaginary friends, they don't exist.
Very good. Yeah, he progresses that as well. And I know obviously he's a great songwriter. He takes his songwriting very seriously. That interview I watched with him, he puts time into every single song. So even if these aren't the quote hits, according to BMAC, they are fantastically done. That takes us to the third track. Mac, what do we got?
We got Gold in the Hills, the remix, off of the album Cobblestone Runway from 2002.
And B-Mac tells us a little bit about this. It says it's a duet with Chris Martin of Coldplay. I like me some Coldplay. I know they're a polarizing group. They did a tour with Coldplay, also drew into stark contrast the financial disparity between a musician like Sexsmith and an act like Coldplay. Someone was referring to this. They said, the funniest memory for me is when we're all eating dinner together. Chris Martin, of course, the lead singer of Coldplay, was asking Ron all kinds of questions because Ron was one of his songwriting heroes. So there you go. And Ron mentioned that he writes a lot of songs at the laundromat. Chris asked, don't you have a washing machine at your house? Ron replied, I don't have a house. I rent an apartment. I can't afford a house. And Chris Martin looked like he was going to faint. And ironically enough, recently, in the last year or two, Ron actually bought his first house ever. And it's not some sort of grand mansion, because I watch his interview from his house and a little bit of his YouTube channel from. So it shows you a guy can be iconic. I mean, he's one of Chris Martin's songwriting heroes, yet the man never had the money to buy a house. So I'm looking forward to this. I've never heard it. Ought to be an interesting dichotomy between the two.
Yeah, so that seemed to be just a song of hope,
I agree. Yeah, I see that it was the seventh song on this album, and then this is the remix, of course. So it did have a Coldplay type arrangement to it.
That's what I thought as soon as it started.
I did too.
This definitely sounds
Yeah, it has the
Coldplay.
keyboard and a little sonically in there. You know, Ron sounds great, and then Chris comes in and they sing the chorus together. But letting you know that, you know, there's gold in them hills is basically the metaphor for you're going to have hard times, and they kind of talk about it. But in those hard times, there's beauty to be found in that. And
it's like a different version of there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. That's very good. Yeah, it really is. So though our troubles seem like mountains, there's gold in them hills. But if we don't open our eyes, we see the blessings in the sky. So I think it's a message, you know, that so many of us wallow on what's wrong in our lives, and we don't look at what's right or what lesson or what beauty can be found in what is wrong. You know, I mean, if you're a regular watcher of this channel, I've lived with, you know, destructive arthritis for 14 years, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, because in that I've found, you know, my faith to be strengthened, and just found stuff in myself that wasn't there before. I'm a better man because I have to walk through that. So I choose to see the beauty in it and not the pain that I live with every single day with it. So I think songs like this are fantastic to be like, don't just always, it's hard to have bad days, but don't always just be like, oh man, this is horrible. What is the beauty in it? So yeah, really good song.
Yeah, I especially liked the harmony at the ending. So don't lose faith, give the world a chance to say a word or two, my friend. There's no telling how the day might end. And then the last two lines, there's gold in them hills. There's gold in them hills.
Yeah, just
the harmony was just amazing on that.
Yeah, spot on song. Wonderful choice, B-Mac. Loved that one. Now we go to song number 4, Jazz at the Bookstore, from time being in 2006. B-Mac told us a little something about this.
He said that Sexsmith wrote all of the lyrics for this song at the laundromat. He recalled to The Guardian January 17th of 2013. I had the whole lyric done by the time my clothes were dry. All I had to do was fold them up and figure out what to do with the words.
There you go, man. When you're a genius songwriter, get a couple things done. You know, Mac, you may never live in a world where you got to go to a laundromat, but back in my past, the laundromat was a total time suck. You had to find something to do while you just waited around, because you can't leave your clothes there, man. Somebody may steal them. But I like it because that connects to the previous song of him telling Chris he had to go to the laundromat. Well, there you have it. Jazz at the Bookstore, a totally different sounding song than the previous song. And, you know, I think I'll play on it. It's very bluesy sounding.
Jazz at the Bookstore. And it does kind of play on to the lyrics. Jazz at the Bookstore and blues in the coffee shop. It reminded me of both of those. Kind of jazzy with some of the instruments, and then did sound
bluesy guitar in there too. Ron's bluesy guitar sounded well. You know, shout out for Lead Belly, who was born way back in 1888, one of the forerunners of blues music. You know, 12-string guitar, just one of the legends. And Lead Belly's in the background being drowned out by the grind. He's singing about Rock Island Line. Nobody seems to pay him any mind. And then he just kind of goes into the current state, I think, of things. You know, I think it's kind of how people don't understand the legends of the past, and how things may be a little bit too easy for people. Bestsellers and bookshelves, the self-printed word. Some faint elegance is heard. Now, was that Ellington or Bird? Has it really come to this? Can ignorance be bliss? I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, and then we get that Jazz at the Bookstore, blues in the coffee shop. Then he talks about a man at the crossroad living in white yuppie land, kind of where we live right now, Mackenzie, and over by the milk and sugar stand. Has it really come for this cup of caffeinated bliss? We browse all over town sipping coffees that we can't pronounce. You know, this whole pretentious, like, let's go get this and be all cool. Meanwhile, in the blues cemetery, all the coffins commence to bounce, bounce, bounce. Lead Belly's in the cold ground, rolling over in his grave. So basically saying that the forerunners in music would just be turning over in their grave of kind of what has become of us, you know, both with our musical taste, I think, and just with what we've become kind of soft. Because he says the line of it for me is that the hard road where so many slaved is now smooth and paved. So I enjoy it. That was a very cleverly written song. It took me a little bit to kind of be like, where's he going with this?
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. And
I'm not positive I'm exactly right, Mackenzie. I'm just merely throwing out a theory here.
Yeah. And I mean, I do agree with what he's saying in the song. I think a lot of people, like, if you bring up even stuff from like 60 years ago or whatever, people seem to be kind of dismissive of it.
Very much so.
And
it's like, your generation. Oh, and some people think it's my generation too, yeah.
And it's like, okay, yes, but music has evolved. Now it's more pop, but say in the 60s, 70s, it was more rock.
Right.
And technology has changed, so obviously it's going to sound different.
Exactly.
And you need to take it for kind of the time period too, because people will be like, oh, well, this person and this person, this person is way better than that person, but what if we went back and looked at all the people that they were with currently, how much the genre, how far it was then, and then we can see how far this person took it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, the evolution, we can't understand it because we didn't live through it. And, they didn't have quite the studio tricks they have now. I'd like to take one of the current people and throw them back then. Get on a stage with an instrument and sing. Now I sound like the old guy saying, get off my yard. But if you don't understand the evolution that all of the forerunners, the Chuck Berrys, the Little Richards, the James Browns, and to the even, I know it's a polarizing figure, but the Elvis Presleys, and then of course on to the Beatles. You don't understand the way they evolved, just to name a very few, how they evolved the genre. We wouldn't have any music now like we do if it wasn't for them. So great points, Mackenzie, and a good choice there just because of the difference. Now we're going to go to the fifth track. We'll go to Michael and His Dad off Long Player, Late Bloomer, 2011. What a great name for an album. What did B-Max say about this?
He said that he just loves this song, and it is the tale of a father and son dealing with the economic recession and the death of the kid's mother.
Wow, some heavy stuff. All right, let's check it out. Michael and His Dad.
Cheery song.
Cheery. It wasn't until towards the end. I don't know, I was picturing Michael as like a teenager until we got towards the end, and then I'm like, no, this man's not a teenager. Or it's weird they're going to the sandbox to play together. But it starts out, Michael's dad sitting at a table in the corner reading the one ad sprawled across the table in the corner. So we're already told it's just those two, and his dad doesn't have a job. There's no time to play. All the signs seem to say, which probably should have given me a hint that the kid was younger.
Yeah.
And then it takes much more than love. So we're told so often in life in the cliche, all it takes is love and you'll be fine. But they're learning it takes much more than that.
Yeah. Whenever I first heard those lines, I thought there's two ways to interpret that. Either it takes more than love in order to make it. You have to work and all that stuff,
right,
and get luck and all that. And then after I thought that, I also thought that if it isn't that, poverty is taking away more than just the love,
right,
and distracting them from each other to go find a job and all that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he's going to just further, the narrative of the story. His dad, they live in an apartment, but they live in the basement, sitting by the radiator because it's cold and damp. The sun does not come through and all the bills are overdue. So he paints the picture of, we're gathered around this radiator. There's no light because there's no windows and the bills are overdue. So we're in this horrible living condition, yet we still can't even pay the bills for that. And then we get back to that it takes much more than love. But then he adds the line, when making do. So yeah, they need that money. And then we learn mother's gone away to the land of safekeeping. Michael walking away from the grave says, Dad, she's only sleeping. But then they get to sit on that bench and go play. And there's a castle made for two. The sun is high, the sky's blue. But it ends well.
Yeah.
Because it repeats those lines, it takes much more than love. It takes two, Michael and his dad. So together you can get through it. So while it was a sad song, I thought it was wonderfully written. I thought it did end with a great message.
Yeah, by the end, they were just looking at the positives, setting aside everything, even though, at the beginning, and there's no time to play, all the signs seem to say, signs were probably saying you got to work this many hours, you got to go and focus on your job.
Yeah, we don't have time for this, man.
That's what's the most important thing in life is, but that's not quite true.
No, and not even close.
And we see how they believe that and how his dad especially understands that and just sets that aside after they visit the grave, sets that aside from his mind and goes and enjoys who he still has, which is his son Michael. And his dad also realizes that despite how he has seemingly nothing, he has no job, he doesn't have a good place to live, he doesn't have his wife, he does have Michael, and that apparently pretty much is the only thing that he has. And so he realizes that he needs to focus on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that, at least he has something, and that's very important. Your children are very important. There's not a lot of other things you need in life. And this one, I really did notice a Beatles type influence on this one. I thought it had some sounds from, in the mid Beatles era. And also, it was built on the piano, which I think works really well for songs like this. Now we move on to track number 6 from his latest album, Hermitage, released in 2020. Is it or isn't it? And B-Max said Ron would be a great show tune writer for musicals. That's what I get from this. Again, love it. And this is what I was talking about. I did an interview with American Songwriter magazine. I said it before, when you're researching somebody like Ron, it's hard to find a lot of stuff. But he did this great interview. I pulled a lot of stuff from there. He moved from Toronto to Stratford, Ontario, and the music just started pouring out leading to this album. And there'll be some other selections, spoiler alert, from this album. But he said he lived in Toronto for 30 years. His wife had wanted to move, but he didn't really want to do it. They'd lived in this place for 15 years. So finally they move out to the small town. I learned in the interview I watched on YouTube, Ron does not drive.
Oh.
So he had to be close to where he could walk into town. And he said he felt he was isolated, just walked through town every day. And this is how it usually works. I would get these melodies and new ideas. I was sort of in a writing frenzy. I was even writing a musical at the same time as I was writing this record. I never even owned a house before, which is pretty cool with a yard and everything. Everything about it was just inspiring our whole new environment.
When he realized he had enough songs for the album, Sexsmith was convinced by producer Don Kerr to play the majority of the instruments by himself. He said, I think it gives it sort of this kid in a candy store feel, because I was having a blast. It never would have occurred to me to do that. And I think Don Kerr even wanted me to play my drums originally, but I thought, I don't know, drums are harder than they look. Ultimately, I'm glad I didn't attempt to do that.
Yeah, and he went on to say, we turned my whole house into a studio, where he was up in one room doing the drums, and I was in another doing live vocals and piano at the same time. And those were the tracks. After that, it was kind of fun, because no one is going to ask me to play bass on their records. I've always loved busy bass players like McCartney and that, so it was fun just to be in that situation. I don't know if I'd ever do it again. It was a lot of work too, but it was all his idea, and I think it was a good one. My question is this. His wife wanted a house all of her own. She finally gets it, and then Ron and Don turn it into a studio. I wonder what her reaction to that was, but I thought it was a cool story behind that album to kind of do everything yourself, a la kind of McCartney 3.
Yeah, and I was already interested into how different it would sound, since this was from 2020, and now I'm even more interested knowing that he played the bass and the instruments on it.
Yeah, it ought to be really cool. So let's find out. Is it or isn't it sonically, musically, a very interesting track? Almost some 50s type doo-wop stuff in there a little bit, and the instrumentation was different, and basically the play on is it or isn't it is, it's they're looking for their significant other, and it probably isn't. Is it love, baby, that you feel, or is it indecision? Was it or wasn't it the real McCoy that you were after when you got with that boy? Is it true that you're still fishing? So he's trying to say, are you looking for another fish in the pond, another fish in the ocean? Are you still looking for someone else even though you're with this person? So it goes from the girl to the boy and talking about those things. It's a pretty quick-paced song. What did you think of this one? I don't know what I think of this one.
Really, I really like the cheery vibe.
Yeah, it did have a good up-tempo vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that once again he had the layering on his voice on like the chorus, and I like that. And I especially liked his voice on the line "Till Something Better Comes Along." He said that line a couple times. I like this song.
Yeah, I mean it shows you that even in 2020, just prolific on the songwriting, very cleverly written.
And his voice didn't even sound all too different either.
No, it didn't. It did not sound aged, and that's a tough thing to do.
And now we are on to song number 7, Getaway Car, and this is from his 2015 album, Carousel 1. Getaway
Car, very Paul McCartney to me. I could hear McCartney doing this one. B-Max done a fantastic job in that this song is totally different than the other ones we've heard, just showing the musical diversity on the sound. The Getaway Car, I think, is basically, kind of a stand-in for the girl that he can escape with her. He might escape in the getaway car, but he's with the girl. What did you think of this one?
I like this one. The chorus was my favorite part.
Mine too.
Instrumentally, with his voice, all that. I like the Bonnie and Clyde reference.
I did too.
Little movie cultural reference in there.
Yeah, where the outlaws were just kind of getting away too. We're just going to run away. It doesn't matter.
It sounded like there was a tambourine in there the whole time.
Yeah, we were throwing some different things in there, some musical layering instrumentation.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice
I did too.
All the different little instruments that they added.
I thought that was cool as well.
Not normally hear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I thought that was a really good offering. Now we're going to move, and we're going to get over that halfway point. We're going to go to Dragonfly on Bay Street. We're going to rewind all the way now back to 2002 from Cobblestone Runway. B-Max said autobiographical as he was a courier in the early days, and Bay Street is the Canadian Wall Street. So thank you for helping these Americans understand what Bay Street is. Let's check this one out. Dragonfly on Bay Street, taking us back to Cobblestone Runway, where the Golden Them Hills song with Chris Martin was.
Yeah, there was some very interesting instrumentation. It was definitely not what I was expecting from him based on what I have heard from him today. Interesting
guitar tones for sure, man. Just kind of riffing through there. And when I saw the title, I'm like, Dragonfly on Bay Street, but it makes total sense once you read it, and then, B-Mac adding the context of what Bay Street is. So it's this Wall Street type financial district where all the wealth and money is, and all these rich guys and hustle and bustle going around. And then, it starts out, used to work as a messenger, spent my days riding elevators in the heart of the business world. Till one day, there came a sign. So young Ron is working as a courier, but I'm guessing the music is calling him. As we know, he started working in bars, as you said at the beginning, at the age of 17, in the form of a dragonfly on Bay Street, buzzing round from tower to tower at the twilight of the working hour. Had he taken a wrong turn? Was he lost without a trace? Just like us, Dragonfly on Bay Street, in the crowd without a face, Dragonfly on Bay Street. So he doesn't belong there. He's this tiny little thing in this whole world of hustle and bustle. It's not his element. Very clever.
Yeah, I like how it goes from did he take a wrong turn, was he lost without a trace, but then right after it says just like us.
Right, exactly.
Reading the both of them.
Yeah.
Because maybe he's looking at the dragonfly, seeing how he doesn't belong there, and then seeing himself in that dragonfly, and that leads him to say just like us.
Yeah, exactly. And then the no fields for miles around, S through the underground I go, so I'm guessing he's riding public transportation. What was it telling me? It's better to be free or maybe nothing at all. So did he quit that job and just take up the singer-songwriter thing permanently? Now I work in another field, spend my time keeping my eyes peeled for a sign that'll lead me home, because Lord, I feel so out of place. And so then it just gets into that Dragon on Bay Street. Really enjoyed the different sound, and I thought the songwriting was once again fantastic. Now we'll go to Worried Song from the Last Rider album in 2017. Worried Song from 2017. I thought on this, his vocals may have sounded the best of anything so far that I've heard. You could feel the emotion in it. I thought he just sounded really good. And I will say, incidentally, we use Genius for all of our lyrics. Ron is so off the radar that 4 of these 15 songs aren't even on Genius. Just an FYI, this was one of them. But uses a little songwriting technique where the last 2 words in a lot of the verses are "till you came along." So it gives these things that were in his life until she came along. I thought this was a nice progression of songwriting. What'd you think of this one?
I like this one. There isn't quite much for me to say on it.
Yeah. Simple instrumentally, right?
Yeah, it's more toned down than the last few songs that we have instrumentally.
Yeah, it's a love song, and he sounds fantastic in it. So it's a good offering, and not that long ago, 2017. That's going to bring us up to song number 10. What do we got?
Next, we have Sneak Out the Back Door from his album Forever and Ever, from the deluxe edition, and that came out in 2013.
And B-Max says Ron wrote this during a period of being disillusioned about the music business caused by the difficulties in getting the previous disc, which we already had a song off of, long player late bloomer release. He explained to the new UK newspaper The Sun, quote, "I get these feelings of anxiety from time to time, and it makes me want to hide or disappear. I wrote this one not long after Nowhere to Go, so I guess I was still feeling a bit rejected by all the US labels and thought perhaps I should pack it in. this feeling comes and goes, I guess. That's raw honesty and kind of sad. So let's check this one out.
Sneak out the back door. I really liked this one.
Well, I did too. I was wondering what you'd think of it.
Yeah, I really liked his voice on it,
yes.
especially. One of my favorite songs vocally that we've listened to from him today. And I really, really liked the lyrics too. I thought it was very well written.
Yeah, it was. And just the acoustic in him worked perfectly because of the gravity of the lyrics. He says, he starts out, "I've never been good at goodbyes. I'm going to sneak out the back door." And that becomes the repeating theme, because in life, if you don't want to be seen or you're thought of as less, why don't you leave by the back door? You're either going to sneak out and no one will know you're gone, or you're going to be asked, why don't you leave through the back door so no one sees you here? So when we understand the context of him and his quote saying, he couldn't find a label to release the previous disc. He felt like it wasn't important probably after all these years of recording, and how brilliant he really is, and no one would even release his previous disc. He had to really fight to get it done. You can it makes the whole thing more heartbreaking. It's a very raw song.
Yes, you could just feel the emotion radiating from the song.
Yeah, you could. Gonna sneak out the back door, let it ride, let the whole thing slide, drift far from the shore, don't want to be missed, didn't even exist. I'm gonna sneak out the back door. That's the first verse he's letting you know. I feel a pang of anxiety at the society gathering. Gonna find me a corner, this little Jack Horner's unraveling. When my life is over, so it goes all the way to the end, Mac. I'm gonna sneak out the back door. Before the mood turns sober, I'm gonna sneak out the back door. Hadn't much of a Midas touch, no luck to be sure. So everything Ron's touched, he's saying, has not turned to gold. Really nothing has. Would you give my regards to people in charge while I sneak out the back door? I mean, I'm not going to say this is my favorite on here because I'm really going to have to think about it because there's a lot of fantastic songs there. But this very well may be my favorite on here.
And now we are on to song number 11, Not About to Lose. And this is from his 2004 album, Retriever.
Not About to Lose. It's off that Retriever album. We already heard Imaginary Friends off this. This comes actually right after it. So it has that same sound. Very heavy on the electric guitar. Different kind of sound than some of his other stuff. And very catchy.
It is, yeah.
That was what I think this was built on, more so than a lot of his stuff. The chorus comes in and the instrumentation punches up, and so that part of the catchiness that you sometimes get out of pop music. I wouldn't consider this pop music, but it's borderline that with the sound that it has. And I'm guessing he's writing it about his struggles in the music career. Or am I just placing that in there after the last song? But that's kind of what I took it.
I thought that.
Because he's already a ways in, even though this is back in 2004. He's already into his career a ways.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned how it's right after Imaginary Friends. I think it's interesting how it goes from a song like that's very sad, discouraging, to a song basically of empowerment. Like, I'm not going to lose this. I'm going to keep going after this, and I will win this. And a line that I really liked was, "But I'm old enough to do it and young enough to do it again."
Yeah, so he's got the confidence, but it isn't over yet. He can do it again. He's done it before. He can do it again. Because he started out, if I were to listen to my doubts, I think my time was running out. Because that's what people always want to tell you. Later on, if I were listening to the sound of that little voice, I might turn back now. Because we've got that little voice inside of us. There's that one, is the old cliche, one sitting on one shoulder, one's on the other. You can do this. No, you can't. You're no good. Yes, you can. And he won't be taking fear's advice. Not after all I've sacrificed. I'm not about to lose this feeling that I found. And I like, just like an oak, I'll take my stand. So he's using the trees. Just like a willow, I can bend. Because, willow bend. Just a really nice song. Really nice song to pop in here. Now we're going to go back to that Hermitage record from 2020 with Chateau, Mermaid. What a title. Let's check this one out. Well, there you have it, Chateau, Mermaid. Now, he talked about this album on the interview I watched, his most current album, and knowing the story behind it now that, moving to the new house. And he said that this album is very upbeat and positive. So I think this fits in with the previous track that we heard. I don't know if he's talking about his actual house in his mind, maybe, but everything's positive. You just got to get here. What you think of this?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked his vocals on it. I'm not really sure what it's about, I
think it's just, for me, it's just about welcome to this place where you can be safe and happy. Now how you get there, I don't know. Welcome to Chateau Mermaid, where your day's unhurried, and we're shadowed by a cloud of worry, where the wine, it flows all day, because a chateau can be, the wine house or the manor house. Shake off your saddle workplace. Come sit by the fireplace. Unravel in a shroud of Mary Jane till kindness melts away at Chateau Mermaid, and then the rest your weary bones. Come dry your tears, for your heart is nearly home, and your home, it surely lies in Chateau Mermaid. So maybe just finding that happy place. Maybe it's a metaphor for finding that happy place, but it does have that upbeat instrumentation, just that good feel and atmosphere to it. So I really enjoyed that one, and we are still not done with this album yet, but we got 3 songs left.
We are up to the song She Does My Heart Good, and we're back to the album Forever and Ever Deluxe Edition from 2013.
Yeah, and that is the one where the Sneak Out the Back Door came from. So this track, I wonder if it's going to be fire like that one was. Let's check it out. She Does My Heart Good. Basically just a love song.
Yeah.
Just nice stripped back instrumentation. More so than we had on Sneak Out the Back Door. Still really like the sound of this. I might have to check out this album. That's 2 songs off there that are very good for me. And, he just, saying all the different things she does to make his heart good. The first chorus, at the first sign of fear, I'd fire into the whites of their eyes. I send all my dreams and desires up to the benevolent sky. What if I could? She does my heart good. And then we get into my soul was bent on leaving. I had no pulse. I was just a flat line. My lungs were barely breathing. When her eyes met mine out of the woods, she does my heart good. She does my heart good. So what a love song. They're basically just describing in very big detail. I was dead until I met eyes with her and found her, and she kind of re-energized me and breathed life into me.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if this song would be happy and upbeat or not because of Sneak On the Back Door.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I think it's a pure song.
Yeah, pure little good 2-minute, 40-second offering. And now we're going to go back. I promised you we would, and I'll actually spoil it for you. The last 2 tracks are both from the Hermitage album in 2020. We got Small Minded World. Small Minded World. That one really reminded me of one Elton John in some place, especially in that chorus. I thought he sounded very similar to something sonically Elton might have done back in the day. Pretty cool song. Like I said, this album's supposed to be very positive, and you can kind of see it in this song. What do you think of this one?
I like this one. I really like the songwriting on it.
Just kind of letting you know that if you're different, it's okay, man. We got a small-minded world, and don't let them get you down. And the chorus, and oh, now don't feel sad. Oh, now don't get mad at the small-minded world. No. Oh, now don't feel blue, because they don't get you. You'll win this small-minded world. Yeah, I thought it was great songwriting as well. I don't have a lot to say about it. I just think it was really well done. And we're going to end this thing with another song from this album, Think of You Fondly. And that American songwriter interview that I read, he had some things to say. He said Hermitage ends with this, which was boosted by an unexpected contribution. The cool thing about that one is that the only contribution on the record from my band is on that one, and they surprised me, he said. Because where the choir section is, there was just my sort of pathetic organ solo that I'm trying to do. When I got a mix back, it had all my bandmates doing this kind of Beach Boys things, and I didn't see that coming. That was a nice surprise, and I thought it was a nice touch. Because the last album was the first album that I'd ever recorded with my touring band. So I felt a little bad I wasn't including them on this one. It was nice that they got their moment, because they're all such good singers.
Think of You Fondly contains the line, the joy and sadness have become one, which Ron says sums up the theme of transformation that the album promotes. He said, I think the older you get, when you have all these regrets and different emotions that you carry around, it does sort of feel like that. You can look back on things fondly, but also with regret. When I wrote it, I was thinking, well, I'm in a new situation now, and I was just looking back on other relationships with people that weren't in my life anymore. I was just sending it out to a whole bunch of people, actually.
Wow, that's quite the build-up, man. Looking forward to this one. Let's finish off this fantastic list. Well, there you have it, the final track. Mac, Think of You Fondly. The only thing I can say about this track in a negative, it's 2 minutes, 15 seconds, is I wish he wrote another verse and it was longer.
I really like this one. As you said, it's short. I kind of like that it's short.
Yeah, we just looked. We cheated a little bit here off camera and realized that it's the final track on the album, which it had to be, right?
Yeah, we were both thinking that while it was playing.
Yeah,
it seems like a great ending to the album.
Yeah, I agree. Nice choice by B Mac as well, ending this thing off. I know he had sent me a revision to this list because he listened to it all and he wanted it to all flow. It's just a fantastic offering, and I mean, this has got a great message to it. I'm gonna have to listen to this album. Got a couple albums here. I'm probably just gonna run the whole discography of Ron Sexsmith. I don't have a lot of time to do it, but I think I'm gonna find the time because just great.
And I really like the choir part too.
Yeah, that wasn't nice. It was only probably 15, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, but it went to it. It's just fantastic. So yeah, just a great one.
And the lyrics on this song, it's something like basically everybody can relate to,
yes.
No matter your age or anything.
I
There's
agree.
always going to be people that you're going to think back, wonder whatever happened to you.
Yeah, and instead of looking back with regret or wishing it would have ended differently, just think back with the good times, man. There's enough negativity. So, yeah, really enjoyed that one. And what a great offering that B-Mac has brought to us. Perfect way to end this thing. I know you would change around the order a little bit. You sent me a revised list so it all flowed together, and boy, did it flow together well. Now we come up to our favorite tracks. This one's really difficult. One, there's 15 songs, and so you take them all in a rapid-fire fashion. It's hard to remember. They were all really good in their own ways. They really were. There wasn't one song on here I didn't like. I'm going to go with Sneak Out the Back Door. That's my favorite on here. That was so good. Gold in Them Hills, just for a different sound. The first track we listened to, Cheap Hotel, was really good. Now I'll go with these last two tracks, Small Minded World and Think of You Fondly. What do you have?
Well, I'm also going to go with Sneak Out the Back Door. I knew that ever since we first listened to it. It's just wonderful instrumentally, and the lyrics and his vocals, just overall,
it all
is
works.
Great. I also really liked Jazz at the Bookstore, and also Is It or Isn't It?
Yeah, very good. So we had, one same fave and others were all different. That tells you the quality of this. If you don't know who Ron Sexsmith is and you're watching this just because you're a regular subscriber to this channel, please go check his stuff out. It's fantastic, man. I really appreciate you joining me, Mackenzie. I figured you would enjoy this one. You added some great stuff to it. We'll be back, me and her, with some other stuff soon. Thank you, B-Mac, and until next time, we will see you.